Do you realize that it's not God's fault that people don't understand him, that they don't know him, that they have been intellectually worshiping him instead of worshiping him in spirit? You do know that? Do you know that that's not God's fault that that has happened?
Well, I would say this, Jesse. I don't know, neither do I believe, but I do say this. If you have parents in the house and the kids are acting up, it is the parents' fault that the kids are acting up. If the
Yeah.
kids set the house on fire, it is the parents' fault for putting kids in position to set the house on fire. So right now, to some people, the house is on fire. The only person you can blame is God because he set everything that there is in motion. Like you said, there is no new thought, but all thoughts, I guess, according to y'all, start with God. So it's his fault. It's not human's fault. So to answer your question, it is God's fault. Yo, what up, though? I have one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite people, man. You know what? I spent the time, over all Christmas break, just going through all your videos, man, your guests, the Fallen State, man. I had a goat in the building, Jesse Lee Peterson, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, host of the Fallen State, man. How you doing?
All is well. Thanks for having me on. Happy New Year to you. And you can call me Jesse.
Just Jesse, okay.
Just
Well,
Jesse.
all right, Jesse. Well, for those who may not be familiar, what is the Fallen State? Like, what is the definition of that?
The fallen state, for those, and all people have until they're born of God, those who have been turned away from the Father. They've been
Mm,
turned away from their earthly father. And as a result of being turned away from their earthly fathers, they are turned away from God. And so they're in a fallen state. And
gotcha.
what we're trying to do is to get them to return to the Father by returning to their earthly fathers first, forgive their fathers for not protecting them from their mothers, because it's the mothers and the grandmothers who turn them away from the Father and
Mm,
cause them to worship her. And as long as you worship the woman, you're worshiping the devil. And as long as you worship the devil, you'll be blind. So what we're encouraging is that men and women go and forgive their mothers and grandmothers for turning them away from their fathers, earthly fathers, and
mm.
forgive their earthly fathers for not protecting them from the mother. And when you forgive him and her, God will forgive you, even if they don't apologize for doing that, because most mothers won't apologize. Her ego is too big, her heart is wicked, and so she will not apologize, but you forgive her and God will forgive you. Then you return to the Father because you're never going to love God as long as you resent your earthly father. So once you return to the Father, you'll be fine.
Okay. And so once you out of the fallen state, then what current state will you be in?
You will be in the risen state. You will become a whole person rather than divided. You will be one with God. You will be one with life. And your life will just happen naturally. And you will have no problems, no issues, no worries, no doubts, no questions or anything. You will just live because you will
Gotcha.
be one with God.
Now, how did you get this revelation from God? Because your message that you're speaking, it is quite unique. I watch a lot of theologians speak online, things of that nature, but I've never heard this message before. So how did you get this revelation?
Well, I like everybody else, I was trying to find it in the churches growing up because when I moved to LA, I realized that I was 18 and I realized I was a beta male. Beta! And I was weak and I was insecure. I didn't know how to deal with the issues of life. I would whenever I got a woman, I didn't know how to deal with her. I would find myself catering to her. And I was emotional, I had a lot of doubt. So I asked God, I asked him, because I had gone to all the churches around here and I asked the preachers, and all the thing they had to tell me, oh, you need to read the Bible more. You need to pray more. You need to do this. I'm like, I've done all that. I gave tithe in office. I worked in the church, nothing worked. But I asked God to let me see myself because I didn't know myself. We should know ourselves, right? And so I asked him to let me see myself, and he allowed me to see. that I resented my mother who had tried to turn me away, who had turned me away from my father because she had some issues with him, and she, as all women are, she was jealous of my father, and so I realized that I was angry at her, but I didn't know it because I felt what I thought was emotional love for my mother. And if you met my mother, she seemed like a nice little Christian going to church woman, right? But she resented my father. And so I went and forgave her. And then I forgave my father for not protecting me from it. And everything changed. He changed my heart from anger to love. He took the
Mhm.
spirit of anger away from me and he set me free. Anyone that has anger is imprisoned within themselves, but anyone who overcome anger are set free within themselves. And so one thing led to another. He gave me he have caused me to grow in understanding and wisdom.
Got you. Now, with women, you highly critical of women. Like you said, we have to forgive. You say we have to forgive our mothers. So in
Yes.
this space, like, what role should women be playing?
Women should follow her husband. She should obey her husband. She too has to forgive her mother for recreating her in her image as well, because they're not themselves. They're just like their mothers. And this cycle repeats itself generation after generation. So women need to forgive their mothers and return to their fathers. And when they return to their fathers, God would take the mother's identity away from her, as he would with the guy too, and give her back herself. And once women return to their father, there is no competition between man and woman. They would no longer be jealous of the man. They would be at total peace as being a woman, being in the role of the woman. If they're married, it would be paradise on earth to be
Mm.
home, watching over his children, doing things at the house that a woman's supposed to do. She would not be in competition with the man at all. If she's not married, she still should forgive because men are over all women. It's just that
Mm.
men have been turned away. But if the man was in his right spiritual state of mind, the man is over all women. Men are the light of the world and the salt of the earth, and women would be happy to follow that light if they have overcome their mothers and forgiven their fathers as well. But
When you
she is
use the
supposed
word,
to obey her husband.
got you, using the word obey, I think people understand well, I think people familiar with the word but don't really understand what it means. So according to Jesse, what does obeying look like for a woman? An example.
O- Obey is never in competition with her husband, never angry or judging him, um, um, watching over his children, because the only reason to get married is to have children. If you're not going to have no children, there's no reason for marriage. But
Mhm.
to keep the house going for him. If there's a problem with the children while the husband is away, the father's away, she should let the kids know. I'm going to let your father know about this. And when you get home from work, she should let you know what happened with the kids. The kids should let you know what happened with the mother and them. And then you will correct the situation. And that will keep the woman in line with what is right rather than going with the ego of the devil and getting off track the way Eve did with Adam.
Got you. Now, of all the religions that exist on the planet, why did you decide to be a Christian? What drew you on to Jesus?
Originally, I was born a Baptist, born into the Baptist world. I grew up down south in Alabama, and my parents and grandparents and everybody were Baptists. So ended up being a Baptist. And as I've gotten older, I realized that Christianity is the best religion on this side of heaven. And it's an honor, it's a blessing to be a Christian because Christianity is the only religion that says that we must be born of the heart, that we must forgive, and to love our enemies. And to love just means don't hate. It doesn't mean you don't speak up. It doesn't mean you don't deal with things, but you just don't hate because all human beings, everyone who's born through the woman is born in anger, is born in sin because that's the nature of the woman. And it's not her nature, but it's Satan's nature that made a home in her. And so every human being that's born of the woman must be born of the Spirit, born of the Father of God, right? Of the man of God. And so Christianity is the best religion, and I'm blessed to be a Christian.
Got you. Do to me, don't it seem like though, in order to be a Christian, you kind of already got to have low self esteem. Like the idea that something about me, I'm already a sinner. I was already born flawed. When I look at myself in the mirror, it reminds me of all the wrong. And this is are the people that get attracted to Christianity is those who already look lowly upon themselves. How do you feel about that?
When you were not born a sinner, you were born into sin, meaning that you were born into a crazy family where your
Mm,
father, your mother was out of order. And so you were born innocent. You were born knowing God, you were born innocent. But when you were born into your family, your mother is angry, she resent your father, she has not overcome her mother. And so in that anger, she imposed a will on you. And that made you angry as a kid because your father didn't protect you from it. And the moment you became angry at your mother, that's when you became a sinner because
gotcha.
salvation is of the heart. And but if your mother and father were in order of God and Christ, Christ and man, man over woman, woman over children, and they had love, real love, you would never have the issues that you have today. But because you were born through a woman that has anger, she changed your innocent to hatred. And she changed your innocent and caused you to live from your imagination rather than living in the presence of God. And that's why you have to go and forgive your mother and grandmother for what they have done to you because they couldn't help it. Their mothers and their mothers and their mothers did it to them as well. And don't ask for forgiveness because human beings don't forgive. You forgive them by apologizing for resenting them, being angry. They can help it. And God will forgive you. Then the real you will come alive. The old you, the ego nature, will die, this which is of the devil, and the real you will live. And you are perfect. It's just that you have identified with the imperfect nature, which is anger, which is the nature of the devil. All thoughts are all lies all the time. No such thing as a true thought. But because you're angry, you have been believing the thoughts, except for practical thoughts like I gotta have dinner, I gotta put gas in my car, practical thoughts, right? But all other thoughts are lies. So you've been worshiping the devil and didn't know it, thinking that it was you.
Got you. Now,
Will you forgive your mother?
I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in God, so sin doesn't really exist.
But do you want to be free of your conflict?
I don't have a conflict.
You have perfect peace.
Perfect peace. Yeah, I feel like I got perfect peace. For me, my favorite rap group, Outkast, said, "Sin all depends on what you believing in." And so, for me, sin doesn't exist. But for Christians, sin does exist. But everyone has their own definition of sin. So, to you, Jesse, what is sin?
Sin is playing God, judging yourself and others. Anyone that has anger has hatred, and anyone that has hatred judge. And whatever you judge, you shall be judged because you are playing God.
Mm. I feel like,
So
but don't we all have to judge character, judge people that's around us to make sure that we are safe, to make sure that we're in a good space when we amongst other people? Isn't that judging? Like, oh,
no,
this person's sounded kind of shady. I don't want to be around them.
judgment is when you resent what you see in others. When if you get angry at them, anger, resentment, hatred is the same thing. But when you're discerning what you see in others, you have no opinion about it at all. You don't judge them at all. And that's what protects you from them. The light of God will protect you from the darkness in them. And so you won't, if you want to hang around, you will. If you don't, you won't. But
Yeah.
anyone that has anger is wicked. Human nature is evil. And so you will be protected from evil. But if you judge them, if you mean that if you get angry at them or you judge them, then you will become like what you judge.
Now, as a Christian, are you a vampire?
A vampire?
Yeah, meaning drinking the blood of a man, eating his body. in the remembrance of him.
Oh, oh,
Sacrificial, like, how long have you been a vampire?
but what that mean is during the Last Supper that Christ had with the disciples, and he
Hmm.
said, "Eat this and drink this in remembrance of me." All that he was saying is that the last thing that men have to overcome is food and sex. That's the last thing. And once men overcome that, they will be free. And so
Was
when
it
you
gay
eat,
sex? Because
I'm
he said,
sorry,
"Eat this." Was Jesus talking about gay sex? Because he was saying, "Eat this bread in remembrance of my body. This is my
no,
blood that I share for you."
no.
You don't think that's
He was
weird? Like
saying what
vampires.
what happens is when you eat and drink, it's if you're not conscious, it causes you to go unconscious. And when
Mm.
you're unconscious, you're one with the devil, right? But when you stay conscious, you're overcoming the devil. And so if you notice that um, when you eat and drink, you go unconscious. Last thing you don't come back to yourself until after the food is gone, and you wonder how did that food was so good. I don't even remember
Trust me,
eating
I
it,
know.
right?
Yeah, I
Right.
know. Trust
And so, but when you eat and drink, you stay conscious. And then when you eat and drink, and you're conscious, rather than getting seduced by the food, you have a different relationship with the food. You use it just to feed the physical body, but not to feed the spirit. And then you'll find yourself eating less and all that because you'll be conscious of it, rather than using it as people use drugs and alcohol and all that kind of stuff in order to forget. You're supposed to remember and not to forget. So it just meant stay present, stay aware.
it. I think there could be a better way of showing that because it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of like cannibalism rituals. Like a man that sacrificed himself and died for your sins. That's human sacrifice. And then this man that died, you do a ritual about eating his body and drinking his blood. For somebody that's don't understand this in depth and just take it for surface value,
Yeah.
that's kind of some really vampire zombie type shit. If you think about it, it's kind of
But
weird.
you don't have to do those things anymore because it's done. The job is done. Christ did. Everything is finished. And we no longer have to live the Old Testament. We have the New Testament now. And everything is done for us. All we have to really do is live. But if you're blind and can't see, you keep doing the same rituals over and over again, and you get nowhere because everything is done in the spirit now, not in the physical.
Now I
Let
see
me
you
ask you
have
one
some.
question, something you
Oh
said that I don't
yeah,
want to forget it. You said that you're not a Christian, so you don't have to forgive your mother.
no, I just don't have anything to forgive her for. She good.
She
That's my
made no
homie.
mistake with you while growing up.
Uh, I could say maybe. I mean, I'm a parent now. I'm doing all that I can. I'm quite sure my kids gonna get older. I'm like, well, dad could have did this better. But it's something like she wronged me. No, maybe because she did some things better, probably, but nothing for me. I don't feel like it's nothing for me to hold a grudge over.
Did she do little things when you were growing up that would irritate you or you wish you didn't do it, didn't say, but she would continue to do it off and on or at times, and you wish that she didn't do that?
Nah, I can't really say I could think of nothing off the top of my head. My older
So
brother,
she was
yeah, I gotta give him.
so she was perfect in the way she raised you.
I feel like she was, for
She made
sure.
no mistakes.
Now, to my eyes, if
So
there
you
were
had a
any mistakes, it conditioned me to be even better person.
so you had a perfect mother.
I believe so.
Amazing. You're the only one on earth
Hey, man, I'm an
other than
alien.
Jesus.
Which one, white Jesus or black Jesus?
Speaking of
I
black
saw.
Jesus, I have a black Jesus.
There you go. Now the
And
Hebrew
he has
brothers.
good hair.
So which one do you like better? Who? Because from my Hebrew brothers, they say black Jesus is giving out curses, but then I look at my white friends and it seems like white Jesus giving out blessings. So if I do become a Christian, which Jesus should I go with?
Neither, because Jesus is a spirit. He's neither black nor white. He is a spirit. He's neither Jew or Gentile. He is a spirit.
So even when do you ever believe he ever physically walked the earth, or he was just when he walked the earth, was he black or white? Which one you think he was?
when he walked the earth, from what history says, he was a Jew. He was not black nor white. He was a Jew.
Hmm. So Jews can kind of blend in based on their skin color. They can go white or black.
At one time, man, I used to couldn't tell a Jew between a white person, and I can't even. Sometimes now, I'm not sure if the person is white or a Jew because you're right.
Yeah.
They look almost the same to me now, but because I have Jewish friends and all kind of white friends and everything, I can kind of tell now. But there are times when I can't tell. They do blend in together.
Well, you know, Jesse, from black people, if you're not Asian or Mexican, you white. We don't black people, we don't distinguish between all the variations of white. We don't say Jewish is not white or German or French. It's just like white people until
Yeah,
you
I
identify
know.
otherwise.
I just
Um,
found out recently that Italians are white. I thought Italian was different, but so there's a little controversy about that. Some say they're white, and some say they're not. But I just thought they were Italian. I never thought of them as being white until recently.
got you. Now I see you talk about slut makers, and I'm like, break down this definition. What is a slut maker?
It's a man who has sex out of wedlock. He's
Hmm.
making sluts. And then the woman who has sex out of, and the woman who is having sex out of wedlock is a slut. And the man is a slut maker.
But he can never be a slut.
No, he can't be a slut. He is always a slut maker. And
Why can't a man be
the woman is always the slut.
a slut? Why is it not possible for a man to be a slut?
Because he's not a female.
Okay. So it's just simply based on that.
And if the man didn't do it, if he had self-control and he
Mhm.
had conquered himself and he didn't have sex with the woman until he married her, she would not be a slut maker either. I mean a slut. But
Mm.
because women are weak and subject to men, men are created sluts. And so that's why they're slut makers.
So Jesse, when was the last time you made a slut? Because you're not married.
Right.
And
It's been a
you know what I'm
while.
saying? It's been a
It-
while. Man,
yeah.
so so right.
I do have a son and I have two grandkids and now two great grandkids. And my son, I made my son out of wedlock when I was 18, 19. And
Gotcha.
so, and when I saw him suffering, like yearning for his father the way he did, I said I would never do that again. So I've been careful not to do that.
So how long have you been celibate?
A long time, a
Man.
long time.
So
But
is it just thing not thinking, or you just choosing your hand? Like how does this work?
oh, that's a good question, man. When you overcome anger, you're going to overcome the ego. All
Mm.
thoughts are all lies all the time. And if you notice that you don't get feelings for anything until you believe a thought. If you think about something, then you feel it, right? But what
Mhm.
happens is none of those thoughts are yours or mine or anyone. No one, not one human being has ever had his or her own thought. They've never created a thought, past or future, and never will. And all the emotions that they have are not their own. Emotions are evil, right? And so once you overcome the thoughts, you're going to overcome the feelings. And when you overcome the feelings, there's nothing to drive you to do the things that you don't want to do. You have self control, but you got to overcome the nature of evil, the nature of the devil. Did you know that all thoughts are all lies all the time? No such thing as a true thought.
There's no such thing as a true thought.
Right.
I never thought about it like that. I never thought about it. I just think and decide if I'm gonna act on a thought or not. Whether it's right or wrong is it's all about if it's gonna make me happy or not. And am I okay with the risk when I act on that thought?
Do you
That's how
create
I
your own thoughts?
feel. Sure. I don't know. They just pop in. I don't know. I don't think of sometimes it just pop out. I'm like, bam, okay, that's cool. We rock it.
And so, but you don't create them
I don't know. I guess they just pop in. It's
and
like
pop
something just
in
dialed up.
Pop in from where?
from a brain.
The brain, you don't get thoughts from brain. Brain just cause the body to function. The blood flow, the little things that tell the body what to do. Thoughts doesn't come from brains.
Where it comes from my consciousness to my brain. My brain is just the mechanism that send it through.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, just consciousness is in the brain, and the consciousness is almost like us having the brain is kind of like an Ethernet cord, and your thoughts is like the internet. You need that Ethernet cord, and you need that Wi-Fi, something to transfer it into the system. So the brain is just a mechanism that transfers the consciousness into the system, so that system, which is your body, react to whatever your consciousness is thinking.
Well, the brain is used for knowledge of. Let's say you want to learn how to build a house, right? And so you're
Mhm.
going to and you learn how to build a house, and you're using the brain for that. But the brain causes the body to function, but the
Right.
brain is not your consciousness. Your consciousness is above the brain. The brain is just a physical thing that
It's
causes
just
a
a mechanism.
physical body to operate. You
Yeah,
say you're not a
definitely agree.
Christian, so are
I'm an
you?
atheist.
I'm sorry.
I'm an atheist.
Are you an atheist? What does that mean?
I don't believe in a God, but you're an atheist too,
Why do you say that?
because you believe in Christian. You believe that in the God of Christianity, but you don't believe in the God of Buddha, right? You don't believe in Hinduism, right?
I don't know who their God is.
What about Islam? You believe in Allah and His Prophet
Abba,
Muhammad?
Allah, Abba.
Do you believe in Him?
No,
See, you're an atheist. You don't believe. You have the one thing you believe in, and you don't believe in the other. So you're an atheist as well.
but I don't believe in God.
Oh, well, then you good. Then you're atheist altogether.
No, I know God. I don't believe in Him, but I know
Man,
Him.
I've been
His
trying to get an
children.
interview with God for about a week. If you know him, tell him I'm trying to pull up for an interview next week.
Do you want to know Him?
Yeah, I want to interview him.
But do you want to know Him?
Yeah,
Do you
after the
really want to
interview,
know Him?
after we interview, then we can go to Starbucks and we can chop it up.
Oh, so you really don't want to know Him. You just want to
No, I
play
want to
around.
know him. No, I want to know him
And why?
because he's God.
But if you don't believe that, why do you think He's God?
Belief is just a belief. You said you know. I rather go. I tell people all the time, don't tell me what you believe. Show me what you know.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
know God, hey man, tell him pull up. I want to chop it up with him. So I don't have to believe because then I know God exists. There's no need for me to believe anymore at all if I know.
Are you close to your father, your earthly father?
He passed away from brain cancer last year.
Oh, may his
That's
soul
my
rest
God.
in peace. Were you
Yes,
close
sir.
to him before he expired?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, amazing.
It's my
So, what made you decide, were you always an atheist? You don't seem like an atheist.
God. No, in fact, I was a very evangelical Christian. Um, College, I was in a fellowship of Christian athletes, leader of Impact Bible Study. I grew up in Detroit. I started one of the first ever Bible studies at my high school in inner city Detroit. I was all
Wow.
into it.
Well, no
But then
wonder
one
all that would turn you into an atheist.
but no, one day I just finally did something that they always say as a Christian, read the Bible. And when I read
Eh,
I saw a lot of contradictions, things didn't add up. And I was like, this is a lie.
And so you're happy being an atheist.
Oh, I love it. I've been born again.
Been born again of what?
Um, of religion, of theology, of circumstance. I finally achieved my perfect peace.
Amazing. So you have no anger?
Nah, I'm chill.
You have you never get angry at all?
I can't say never, but very rarely. I was more angry as a Christian than I am now.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I wish you
What
well
about
with that.
speaking of that, man, heaven or hell, am I going when I die?
I'm sorry?
Heaven or hell, where do I go when I die?
No one knows. That's between you and God. And I
Mm,
know human beings like to predict where you're gonna go, but they don't
mhm.
know. They really don't know. Uh, but so no one knows. Only God made that decision at that time. But I do know that you can have paradise right here on earth. You don't have to wait until you die because the kingdom of heaven is in us, it's with us already. And so, however you live on earth, whether you live in paradise or you live in hell, ask why you living is
Mhm.
if you drop your body while living in hell on earth, that's where you'll be for eternity. But if you drop your body while living on paradise on earth, you'll live that way as well.
Is that your
So
prediction?
I'm sorry.
Is that your prediction of what will happen?
I don't know what will happen. I don't know what God's decision will be where you would go, but I do know that you can have paradise here on earth. You don't have to wait
Gotcha.
until you die.
Now, I think my issue with Christianity is like back what you saying with slut makers and things of that nature is, of course, God don't, according to Christianity, God don't want people gay, but he don't want people too straight either. It's like as a man,
Yeah.
you can't have more than one woman, and you better not look at a woman with lustful eyes. I'm out. I'm already in hell already because I like ass, Jesse. And so, so I like a woman with a nice big booty, man. I can't become a Christian just because of that.
Well, that's not the reason to become a Christian. The reason to become a Christian is that you want to overcome the fallen state so you can live in the light rather than living in the darkness. It's not any of those things that you just said.
Mm. I feel like I'm in a risen state right now. Excuse me.
Amazing. So let me ask, what's wrong with the blacks?
Man, I've been trying to figure that out myself, Jesse. I think we
I-
good. I think
In
we
what
good
way? In what way?
in every way. I think life is like you said. If you live life with anger, you're gonna see everything wrong. If you
Yeah.
live life with love, you can see what's right. So it's all about your perception and what you decide to harpen on.
And
I'm
do
not
you
the type
try
of
to
person. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, finish your point.
No, you got it. Go ahead.
And do you try to encourage the blacks to overcome the anger?
I try to encourage everybody, but absolutely, my people, I do definitely try to say, hey, get rid of that victim mentality for sure.
Yeah.
Because
How
when I
do
was
they
a Christian,
respond to that? How do they respond to that when you tell them that?
they, some people understand. It took me a minute to come out of that. Again, when I was a Christian, I blamed everything on the devil. When I was a Christian, I felt like everything was going to be given to me. If I just not sin, God was going to give it. It wasn't an ideal. I wasn't taught a theology of working. It was just God give, everything wrong is the devil, blame and ask. And so then you see that transcend in the black community where it is a blame and an ask versus the idea of just getting out working, creating opportunities, networking. And so now that I'm outside of Christianity, I know that it's nothing external or this divine being that's going to rain down something to me supernaturally. I know that if I work, if I plan, if I prepare, I put myself in a more in a position to get what I want. I don't have to blame anybody.
Do you realize that it's not God's fault that people don't understand him, that they don't know him, that they have been intellectually worshiping him instead of worshiping him in spirit? You do know that? Do you know that that's not God's fault that that has happened?
Well, I would say this, Jesse. I don't know, neither do I believe, but I do say this. If you have parents in the house and the kids are acting up, it is the parents' fault that the kids are acting up. If the
Yeah.
kids set the house on fire, it is the parents' fault for putting kids in position to set the house on fire. So right now, to some people, the earth is the house is on fire. The only person you can blame is God because he set everything that there is in motion. Like you said, there is no new thought, but all thoughts, I guess, according to y'all, start with God. So it's his fault. It's not human's fault. So to answer your question, it is God's fault. fault.
But thoughts does not start with God at all.
Everything starts with him.
Not
Don't,
thoughts. Thoughts start with the devil.
but didn't God create the devil?
He did, but he
Yeah, well,
didn't
it
create
don't
the
matter,
thoughts
Jesse.
that he didn't
He
create.
created
He
the devil.
did, but he didn't create the thoughts that the devil has.
He still created the devil, and he knew the devil was gonna mess up and create everything else. So it all started with God. Hey, God
So
don't get to escape.
you think that God created the thoughts of the devil?
Maybe the black Jesus did. What do you think?
About the thoughts thing?
If God created the devil, he created everything about him, the thoughts and all. It's all on God.
Amazing. Well, I understand why you think that, but I want you to know that's not true at all because he wants you to overcome thoughts. And when you overcome the thoughts, you overcome the devil, you overcome the false illusion that you have of yourself, that you are your thoughts, that you are your feelings. And you stop identifying with that. And then,
Mm.
as I said earlier, the real you will come about. The real you. You
So
mentioned the Allah Abba religion. What do you think about that?
I don't care. I let people. Hey, if if idea of God is gonna help you get through this life and make sense of the suffering and the blessings and how things operate, and it's gonna keep you going on and be a better person, have at it. I don't care now if you are radical, whether you're a radical Christian, radical Muslim, anybody in your ideology begin to threaten and harm people, then I think that's where it's become a problem. But no, do whatever you want to do. I'm not here to try to
Yeah,
deconvert anybody.
that's right. Neither do I. Let me ask, do you believe racism exists?
Yeah, I believe it exists. I
And,
experienced it.
and why do you believe it exists?
I experienced it.
What was the
Well,
experience?
well, a couple of things. So I played college football at Bowling Green, and I remember one time I was the only black offensive lineman, and we were warming up in the end zone before the game, and the student section was behind the end zone. And I remember seeing this little white kid come down to the rail. They got a state trooper there, and the little white kid just put up two middle fingers at me. He was like, "Fuck you, you nigger! Fuck you, you nigger!" I'm like, so I'm like, damn. I'm looking at the cop like, you not gonna say nothing. So we come back, we score a touchdown, and he back down at the rail next to the cop again. You fucking nigger! And the cop just got his arms folded, just laughing. I said, wow. Another time in college, because my college was predominantly white, one of my teammates, he wanted to go to a frat party. White guy. Shout out to my guy, Chris Russell. And so we went to a white fraternity party. I don't know. I'm a kid from inner city Detroit. This is my first time just really being around white people like this in its fullness. And I went in the party. I'm thinking everything good. I'm with my teammate, a bunch of white people, and it's like the music just stopped, like, "Rrr," and everybody looking at me like. And so I was looking at it. I got the vibes. I got the feeling like, nah, this ain't my party. Let me get up out of here. As I get ready to walk out the door, somebody took a full can of beer and threw it at the door as I was closing the door to walk out. Um, so I believe maybe that's bigotry, maybe, you know what I'm saying, not necessarily racism, but I've experienced it.
Well, that's just hatred. It's not racism. It's evil, right? If that when that happened, or if it happened, have you been called that word by black people? The N word.
Nigger with the
You
ER,
been,
no. With the A, for sure, my nigga. Yeah.
and was that racism when they call you that?
No, because the word is different. It's a different spelling.
And who
You
came
have
up with the idea? Who came
go
up
ahead, I'm
with the
sorry.
idea that blacks can spell it differently and make it okay?
Charleston
Because I
White.
would think that if it's a bad word, it should be a bad word across the board. Who came up with the idea? Well, you know what? For blacks to use the word, we need to spell it differently. It has the same meaning, but we'll just spell it differently. Who came up with that idea?
Same person that came up with sluts and slut makers. Hey,
I didn't come up with that.
oh, I didn't say you. I said whoever came up with that came up with nigger and nigga. Is black people can be niggas and white people can't say niggers. And just like guys can be slut makers and men can't be sluts, according to your
So
philosophy. So whoever made that up.
if a white person call you nigga, as you said, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, it depends on our relationship. I just let them know, like, hey, we're not monolithic. Or is it monolithic? That's the word. Like, hey, don't say this to everybody because you might get your ass knocked out. So
And so if you were like when you're on this team and this little white kid you say call you the other word, if he
mhm.
had called you the word the way the black people do it, you would have been okay?
Yeah, but the fact that he gave me two middle fingers, it wasn't no way he can say nigga. That's not how that works.
Right.
He gave me double middle fingers. Hey, nah, his body gesture already was saying he was being hateful. I wish
Oh,
I
I
would have
see.
been able to get it.
So if a black person did that and gave you the middle finger, but used the black way of saying it, would you be okay with that?
No, that would hurt my feelings.
Oh, okay.
That
That's
would hurt my
interesting,
feelings.
man. I often wonder who changed the spelling of the word, even though it has the same meaning, but they changed the spelling of it so that
But it
the
doesn't have
black
the same
can.
meaning. It doesn't have
I'm
the same
sorry?
meaning. It
It
doesn't have
does
the
not?
same meaning. Charleston White has already taught us that nigga is a term of endearment in a certain group of people, where nigger with the ER is a racial slur to demean and diminish people, black people. So there are two different words. Words
Who's
evolve.
Charleston White?
You don't remember Charleston White? You interviewed
No.
him, right? Out of Texas, guy with the one eye, skinny
Oh,
dude.
yeah. I
Yeah,
remember him. Yeah.
Charleston
That
not
was
rocking with me right now, but hey, shout out to Charleston anyway.
yeah.
But
Shout out to Charleston. One last question because time is running out. What's
yes, sir.
important to you?
What's important to me, man, is just live, man, live the best and do the best and contribute so that when the next group come behind us, they got something a lot better than what we started off. My son is on my heels, and I'm trying to make the world a lot better for him and my daughter. So, man, just do your job, do your part.
You love
That's all
America?
I do. I do.
What do you think about the people that
Uh-oh. Your
what do you
mic cut out. I can hear you now. Sorry.
what do you think about the blacks who hate America? They kneel during the national anthem. They're complaining. They feel like victims rather than being grateful to be an American and put back. What do you think of the ones that is kneeling and carrying on and feeling like victims?
Um, First of all, I never took kneeling as hating anything. I think kneeling is a very submissive position to be in and kneel before something. So I never took that as disrespect. I think also kneeling at like what Kaepernick and people doing like that, I think they're doing what people fought for in America is to exercise your right peacefully. You know what I'm saying? You should have the right to protest. And I felt like they did nothing wrong. It's not a complaint. This is just bringing you can look at it as complaining. It's all about your perception. But they doing what soldiers die for when they go over war overseas to fight for our freedom. It's the freedom to protest, the freedom to have our voices be heard. So if kneeling can bring awareness, I'd rather it be kneeling to bring awareness than guns to bring it.
But when they're kneeling at work. They've been paid to go to work and do a job, right? And they
Mhm,
accepted the amount of money and they told the person, yes, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna do the best job I can do. But
mhm.
instead of going to work and doing that, they are kneeling at work. They're protesting at work, and you don't get paid at work to protest.
You
If you
don't,
want to
but sometimes
protest, you're right in that I'm fine with protest too, but do it after work. Go on downtown after work and protest, but not while you're on the clock.
man, you a Christian. You know everything about sacrifice. That's what y'all do. Y'all like sacrificing bodies. This is the theme of America. Some people feel like, fuck that job. This is bigger than my job. This is bigger than that paycheck. And if they find that so, that's what make America so great. I can sit down and kneel. My job can say that's against our policy. You gotta go. I knew the repercussions of my actions, and so there it is.
So you're not saying it's the right thing to do, but if they want to do it, they can do it. even at the risk of getting fired?
It's not about, like we said earlier, it's no right or wrong thought. It
No,
is
I'm
what it
saying
is.
that even though they agreed that they were going to go to work and do a job for this amount of money, and so you're saying that they have the right. It's okay if they did it, but they run the risk of getting fired too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Because the
yeah,
job got their own policy. So hey, you breached your contract, you exercise your right, but hey, you got to get out these doors. And we saw that's what happened to Kaepernick. He
yeah.
lost his job, and hey, that's just what comes with it. A good sacrifice story. Last question for you before we get out. The Great White Hope.
I'm
Your
glad
man
you asked about it.
is he gonna make it? I think he out of there, man.
We are going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C.
No, the Great White Hope will be back.
You
And
think
if you
so?
notice, they're the enemies of good and doing everything they can to stop him. That's both Republicans and Democrats,
Mm.
represented the media and everything. But the Great White Hope cannot be stopped. He'll be back and he'll be president again. Will you vote for him?
I have to see. I like what's my man in Florida?
Donald
Uh,
Trump.
no, just dropped my mind. The governor in
DeSantis.
Florida. Yeah, I like
DeSantis.
DeSantis. Yeah, I
Well,
like him.
and why do you
Y'all
like
old people
him?
gotta get because y'all old people got to get out. All of y'all that was born during the civil rights, y'all got to get on, Jesse. Y'all just slowing things back. Biden got to go. Trump can't get in there. He gonna be 89 years. Your whole generation just need to just exit the White House and let these young people come in, man, so we could get America on a roll. Cause y'all trying to go back to the past. Y'all trying to make it nostalgic and hold on to old stuff. That's why I don't like conservatives. All conservatives mean is we don't want nothing to change.
The Ron DeSantis, he seemed to be doing a pretty good job as running Florida, but you got to remember that Florida is not the whole country; it's just a small area that he's running. But Ron DeSantis is not strong enough to run the whole country, and that's why the right or Republicans are for him. The Democrats would rather have him than Donald Trump because they know that he can be controlled, whereas Donald Trump, the Great White Hope, cannot be controlled, and they don't want him. And so I would be leery at wanting. And I wish him well. He seemed to be doing an amazing job down in Florida. I'm not knocking what he's doing, but I would be a little leery about it because the right or Republicans prefer him over the Great White Hope, Donald Trump.
Well, if it's not DeSantis, then I want Dr. Umar.
Who?
Dr.
Who?
Umar.
What the? Why don't you run?
Nah, man, that ain't my calling.
It's not your
My
call. What's your
calling,
calling?
man, to sit here and talk to amazing people like you, man, so I can just go and tell my son the things I was able to achieve in his life before I get off this rock.
Right on. Well, it's been amazing talking to you too, man. I've learned a lot from you today. That some things I didn't realize about how atheists felt about things and what they thought. So I really wish you well with that, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, Jesse, for sitting with me, man. I'll be out in LA on the 17th of February, man. Hopefully I can take you to lunch or something.
When you
Golden
come out,
Corral.
let me know. Yeah,
I'll
let me
take you
know.
to
We
Golden
may
Corral because
where?
old people love Golden Corral. I'll take you to Golden Corral.
That's amazing. Well, let me know when you get here. All right.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
All right. Can I give out my website there for the people?
Yeah, go ahead. Do your thing, Jesse.
Okay. It's rebuildingtheman.com. Rebuildingtheman.com. Bringing back the order of God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. And also JesseLeePeterson.com. JesseLeePeterson.com. Derek, it was an honor to meet you, man. I enjoyed talking to you.
Hey, you too, man. Until we meet again.
Yes, sir. Take care now.